Assalamualaikum and a good evening. Today our group will present on the topic of Ijarah. We will start first with the definition. Ijarah is an action which to give something on rent or providing services and goods temporarily for a wage. In traditional fiqh, the contract is generally for fixed period and price. In Islamic finance, Ijarah is usually referred to leasing contract of property. In the diagram, we could see that the lessor is called mu'ajir, which would provide goods or services to the lessee, the ajir. These are the flow of Ijarah. The mu'ajir will offer the use of the ma'jur, the things or asset, to the musta'jir. If the musta'jir agree, he would give an acceptance, the qabul, to the mu'ajir and pay the ujrah, fees or rental, for the use of ma'jur.
Next is Basic Rules of Leasing by Muhammad Taqi Usmani. The first one is owner transfer the right of use to another person for an agreed period and consideration. It means that muajir need to transfer the use of the property, as an example, to the mustajir for an agreed period, means the lease period, and the consideration, which means the rental payment. Second one is lease item must have valuable use. Next is for valid contract that the corpus of this property remains in the ownership of the lessor and only transfer the right of use to lessee. It means that the major responsibility of the property is in the hand of the lessor, and lessee will only use the asset instead of taking the responsibility of it. The fourth one is all liabilities emerge from the ownership borne by lessor, but liabilities attributable to use of property borne by lessee. It means that the liabilities such as the major maintenance which need to be such as vehicles which need to be maintained for every 2 or 3 months need to be done by lessor instead of lessee. The fifth is period of lease must be determined clearly. In the contract, the lease contract, it needs to be specifically written the period lease such as 2 years or 3 years or etc. The sixth is lessee cannot use the lease asset for other purposes other specified in lease agreement. If no purpose specified, lessee can use for whatever purpose unless for abnormal purpose, permission by lessor is needed. It means that if the lessee lease the vehicle which is specified in the agreement, it states that the lessee need to use to only for going to office. Therefore, lessee only need to use the vehicle only to go to office. Cannot go to shopping mall as example. If there is no specified needs in the contract, therefore lessee can use the car to go to anywhere with the consent by lessor. 7 is any damage or loss of lease asset during lease period caused by any misuse or negligence are liable by lessee. It means that in such cases of vehicles, if lessee involved in accident which the vehicles have major accident, therefore the damaged part of the accident need to be borne by lessee because lessee made it. Okay. The 8th is lessor bear all the risks associated for any damage or loss caused by any factors beyond control of lessee. It means that if the lessee park the car in front of the lessee house and then there is a natural disaster happen around the lessee house, therefore the damage caused to the vehicles, as an example, will be borne by lessor instead of lessee because natural disaster is something is beyond control of the lessee. The 9 is A property owned by two or more persons can be leased out, and rental shall be distributed between all the joint owners according to the proportion of their respective shares in the property. It means that if my friend and I is the lessor of a property, which 50-50, therefore the rental given by the rental received by the rental given by the lessee will be distributed 50% to my friend and I. 10 is a joint owner of a property can lease his proportion share to his co-owner only and not to other person. 11, valid only if these assets are fully identified by the parties. The 11 points is related with the 10 point. It means that if the property is a double-story house, as example, my proportion is the ground floor and my partner is on the level 1. So I can only lease the ground floor only. If I want to lease the whole property, I need to have a fully consent by my other parties. 12 is long-term contract, either contract a lease with condition that the rent shall be increased at a specified proportion after a specified period, or contract the lease for a shorter period which lessee can renew the lease on fresh terms and conditions. Number 12 is eligible if the it's not interest, it's value of money, rate of return to the lessor is variable instead of fixed. If lessor want to charge the variable rate of return to the lessee, in the agreement specified specifically whether the rate of rental will need to be increased, or the initial agreement will be void, and then the two parties need to make a new agreement with the new rental payment and the new rate of return. That's all for me. Thank you. Now is for the features that differentiate Ijarah in Islamic way with the conventional way. Conventional, we say it is like a leasing, and in Islamic way we call it as Ijarah. The first one is use of asset. Both conventional and Ijarah need to be specified specifically in the contract. For the use of the asset, the rental, the lease payment period, and everything. Both need to be specified specifically in the contract. Next is interest. For conventional way, there is interest, which means that there is two interests, which is the time value of money of interest, which mean of time value of money, and another one is interest for the late payment. In Ijarah, only interest of time value of money is permissible, but interest of late payment is definitely cannot, because Islam not tolerate with interest because of late payment. Next is ownership. Lessor must own the ownership of asset for the whole lease period. It means that if in the agreement states that the lease period is 4 years, then the ownership of the property, such as example, will be under lessor for 4 years, and the use of the asset will be on the lessee for 4 years only. Alright, thank you.
There are 3 types of Ijarah, which is the first one is Ijarah Tuma al-Bay. It is also known as hire purchase. The lessee hire the goods and agree to purchase it, paying in installments, so that by the end of the lease period, it owns the goods for free and clear. The second one is Ijarah Mausofa bil al-Dima. This is where service being is well defined, but the particular unit providing that service is not identified. If the unit provider is destroyed, the contract is not void. Last one is ijarah wal iktima or ijarah muntahua bitamlik. It's end up with lessee obtain the ownership of the leased asset as soon as lessee pay the purchase price of the asset anytime during the leasing period. The condition for ijarah wa iktima is the lessee and the transfer of ownership of asset should be recorded in separate document. Second, the agreement to transfer ownership should not be a precondition to the signing of leasing contract. Lastly, the promise to transfer the ownership should be unilateral and should be binding only on lessor. Ijarah wa iktima can be described as two parts, which is the first one is hibah or gift, where legal title transfer to lessee without payment and need to be according to Islamic way. Second part is sales. This is where gradual transfer of legal title of lease property during lease period, or where legal title transfer at the end of lease for a token consideration, or where the ownership is transferred before the end of lease period for a price equivalent to the residual time. Okay.
One of the application of Ijarah is Al-Ijarah Thumma Al-Bait or ITAP. Okay, what is this product about? This is a facility is given to the customer to part finance the purchase of a motor vehicle. Upon approval of the facility, an ITAP agreement shall be entered between the customer and the hirer and Maybank Islamic Berhad as the bank and owner of the motor vehicle. The profit for the ITAP facility is calculated based on fixed or variable rate over the tenure of the facility. The period of the ITAP must be maximum of 9 years only. So what is the Sharia contract applicable? The applicable Sharia contract is Al-Ijarah Thumma Al-Bait or ITAP. ITAP is a leasing contract, Ijarah, followed by sale contract, which is Al-Bait. Under the leasing contract, the customer leases the asset from the bank at an agreed rental payment over a specific period. Upon expiry of the leasing period, the customer enters into a sales contract to purchase the asset from the bank at an agreed price, which means that the first one, the Ijarah contract will be applied where the customer will pay to the bank an amount of money at the agreed price, and upon the expiry of the rental payment, the customer can buy the asset from the bank. So what do the customer get from this product? So amount finance, which is some amount, and payment period up to 9 years, and term charges, whether it is fixed rate and annual percentage rate, or it is a variable rate, which is it is charged on per annum. So what are the obligation of the customer? For the fixed rate, customer need to pay a rental installment monthly for a period of 9 years, and for a period of let's say it is 5 years, so 60 months, and the final installment of how much. So the total amount payable is how much. The same thing applies to the variable rate, where the monthly installment is RM something for a period of 60 months, for example, and the final installment of RM something. So this is the total amount payable. So this is the mechanism of the Ijarah, which is the financial, which is the bank, will release the asset to the customer. So the customer need to pay for a rental payment to the bank, and then once the rental period has expired, the customer will buy the asset from the bank. So there is two principle applicable, which is the contract of al-ijarah and the contract of al-bay'.